Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory Podcast. This is John Duncan, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Steve Irvine. And guys, unfortunately, UAB did lose yesterday in the Alamo Dome, 34-31, in, of course, heartbreaking fashion. But, Steve, our guys showed a lot of heart and fight yesterday. And I know we're going to get into maybe talking about what maybe should have happened on fourth down, but I know, it's easy for us to say, especially after the fact, but I don't know. How do we start this, Steve?
Well, yeah, there's so many layers how to start. I mean, I think you're right. Is you got to be, proud of this team and how they played. They could have folded a few times. Not everything went right. Obviously, there's obviously been a lot of time. It hurts to lose. I mean, it does. And if you think it hurts for the fans and others outside, I mean, that was a hurt group last night when we got on that plane. I will say, and we're going to get into the call, to go for it on night, to punt the ball on fourth down, and in my opinion, it's really easy to coach when you're not coaching. And I said that last night on Twitter in response to somebody, and it is. I mean, it's it's very easy to sit there and go, hey, you should have done that and you should have done this. I will say I was disappointed with some of the reaction. I don't mind the, we should have done this, we should have done that. But some of the reaction, it was, got a little personal. And people, a few, and I'm not saying all of them, but a few people suggested that, maybe we want to move forward without him, and just I know, ridiculous talk like that. And it's easy to sit where we're sitting and say you should have done this, and hey, if they punt the ball there and they stop them and they don't score, then it worked, and you just never know. I mean, you never know. But they've got to make that decision in a short amount of time, and I don't know. We're going to talk about that in a little while, but I think overall, I think just you got to be proud of this group, but it hurts, and it's great to have the program to a point where something like this hurts.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, hey, well, they tried hard, and man, maybe they'll get them next time. And, I mean, when you're looking at a season, you're going to end up possibly 8-4, right. A regular season, and that's a disappointment. That means the program's in a pretty good spot, and, especially compared to where it was when Bill Clark and his staff took over. And so that's to me is a good thing, to be this disappointed, in what happened. So, I hate it that there's not going to be a championship game for the fourth straight year. And it hurts to be that close, and I tell you what, it's, give UTSA a lot of credit, but my goodness, it was hard sitting there watching that celebration.
Oh,
I mean, it was hard, and especially it was hard for the guys, the players and coaches have to see that and hear that. So it was tough, but hey, like I always say, sun came up today, and we gonna move forward.
Yeah, you had to remind me that earlier.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Oh man, but I and we've talked about this before, Steve. We both have so much respect for that UTSA program and with Jeff Traylor. But I think last night, I think that was the Conference USA Championship game, because you can't tell me. I know Western Kentucky's playing well and Marshall's played well too, but I think those were the two best teams in the conference playing yesterday.
Well, I mean, I think it was definitely a championship game. I mean, there's no doubt it was a tremendous game. Two great teams, that played well. They both played well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they really did. Now I disagree a little bit about. I think Western Kentucky has a chance to beat UTSA in the championship game. Provided they get there. They got to beat Marshall. I think Western. Western's played them once. And really could have beat them then, and I think Western's playing better right now. So I think there's three teams that have stepped above everybody else, and I think that's UAB and then the two teams, UTSA and Western. I think you could pick any of those three teams, and I think they're have the possibility to be the best team. Obviously, the best team right now is UTSA because they're still unbeaten.
Yeah.
They've beaten both UAB and Western Kentucky, so you have to give it to them. And they found ways. They find ways to win when they need to, and they dominated a lot of people, but when they have to, they find ways to win, and that's what they did last night. So, but I think that championship game has the potential to be a really, really good game, and I don't think it's automatic that UTSA wins. Now it's an advantage they have it at home, and they've already beaten them on the road. They won at Western Kentucky the first time, but I just think this has a potential to be really, really a heck of a game.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Steve, let's just go ahead and get into that fourth down decision.
Okay.
Coach Clark decided to punt it, and it was about fourth inch or two. Did he mention anything post game? Because I didn't even get to listen to the post game.
Yeah, I mean, we in our role, we didn't really ask him about it.
I know it's hard
because
that's
not our role. Now he was asked about it in the regular post game press conference, and basically he said it wasn't easy. He wanted really bad to go for it, but he felt like he didn't. He felt like if something happened, a drop snap or just some freaky thing happened that he would have let his team down by doing that, and he said 100 times out of 100 times he'd make that same decision. I respect that. I respect a guy saying that.
Yeah.
And now I've seen people on Twitter or wherever saying, they don't respect. Well, how come he didn't admit he made a mistake? When his mind is not a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, we all got our opinions. I don't mind an opinion, but again, it's really easy to sit there on your couch in the radio booth, in the stands, wherever you may be. It's really easy to say this is what they should have done because there's no repercussions for it. None. Zero. Right. Like I could still be mad. They could have intercepted, he could have punted the ball away and got an interception on the first play, and it would have worked. Yet I could sit there and still say, well, I still think you should have went for it. I mean, it's just, there's no repercussions. Yeah. It didn't work. It didn't work. That happens in this world. I mean, not everything happens the way you want to happen. I have respect for personally. This is my own personal opinion. I don't mind other people's opinions. This is my own personal opinion. I respect a guy making a decision and it didn't work, but still standing by that decision.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to come back and go, oh boy, well, I made a huge mistake. No, you don't have to do that. You still, if he still feels strong about that decision, and I've seen people say, well, he's too conservative and he's playing to not to lose instead of to win. That's bull. That's bull. He made his defense was playing well at that point. You just it's things happen in the game. You're trying to win a game. And so I hate that it didn't work for them. I do see the argument of going for it. It's very tempting, and so I do see that argument. But I go back to, I mean, I don't even remember who they were playing, but Louisiana Tech had a game this year. I think it was Old Dominion maybe that they lost, and Skip Holtz went for it. Now it was a little farther than inches. I think it was 4th and 2.
Yeah.
Late in the game, and they miss it or don't get it and do it, and I remember thinking at the time, like, why in the world would you go for that there? Now again, it's a little farther, but still, it was kind of the opposite, type of thing. But it's easy to say, well, they've been running the ball well, and I'm telling you what. DeWayne McBride was the best darn running back on that field last night.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a big Sincere McCormick fan. I think he's going to be an NFL running back. And I think UAB did a great job on him. But last night on that field, the best running back on that field was Dwayne McBride. But and so you think like, okay, we have him, but you know what happens? You know, I thought Clarence Hicks of UTSA had really was kind of dominating at that point, just really, you know, beating guys off the line of scrimmage. What happens if he comes off the line of scrimmage and you know, beats a block and tackles him before he gets the, you know, basically before he gets the ball, you know, and then all of a sudden they've got to go 40 or less to you know, to win it. You know, I don't know. I mean, it's again, it's easy to second guess, and I've always laughed at people that say, well, I said it right away. I'm not second guessing. Well, you're sitting in the stands, you know, or like I say, in the radio booth or wherever. And it's easy to do that, you know, and it hurts. I mean, it didn't work. It didn't work. And that hurts. And you think it doesn't hurt Bill Clark?
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, you think he doesn't, and I mean, I know privately he's thinking, man, I want, you know, if he did the right thing, you know, I mean, I think privately he's certainly thinking that, but, you know, I don't know. I mean, I was disappointed with a lot of the reaction, and I know, and I'm telling you this, these people involved in the football program, they hear that talk, and it disappoints them. I had 2 or 3 guys come to me and say, man, why, you know, this is talking about how hurt they were by the reaction, you know, and you got to have thick skin, you do, but it still hurts. I mean, these are people, you know, and so you think it doesn't hurt, you know, and you know, and hey, people are gonna, you know, people who listen to this are gonna, you know, rip me for saying what I'm saying. I don't care. It's my opinion, and you can have your opinion. You're fine with it, but I was disappointed with the reaction of some, you know, and it is what it is.
Yeah, very well said. Well, let's go ahead and just talk about some of those individual performances yesterday. And we got to start with Dwayne McBride. 24 carries, 144 yards, a touchdown. He did have that lone fumble, but luckily we were able to get it. But McBride, I mean, these past few weeks, man, he's just been on another level, and he just continues to just get better and better each week, and it's just great to see. I mean, I guess that does make it harder, you know, thinking about, man, he could have got that couple inches at the end. But I mean, it's like we're not going to, you know, get into that anymore. But just talk about his performance, Steve. Just
we will get into it a little more. It's going to come back. I mean, come on, let's be honest about it. But no, I just thought he's been a grown man these last, you know, really last 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, you look at what he's done, and you know, last night just, you know, against a very, very good rush defense. You know, he just, I mean, just the way he runs through tackles, you know, he beats you with his speed. But just to me, just the way he just kind of easily runs through tackles, you know, I mean, it's like he doesn't slow down a lot of times. Like that touchdown run, the one that put, you know, one that should have been the game winner, was, I mean, he just ran through the guy, you know, and the guy had a good shot on him. This guy that was, you know, one of their safeties, who was a good tackler, and it just was, I mean, he didn't slow down, you know, and you know, he does a great job of there's, you know, there's, you know, zone blocking, you know, finding that hole, the cutbacks, and has great vision. Really, there's not much that he can't do right now, other than, you know, I do think he still is, I don't know, not as durable maybe as he will be. You know, and you know, I do think he gets tired some, but you know, I don't think he did last night necessarily. Now they do a great job of making sure he stays fresh. You know, even when he carries the ball 25 times, because I don't know what he had last night. I think 20 in the 20s.
24, yeah.
Okay, 24. And so, but they do a great job of keeping him fresh. You know, they don't. You know, with Spencer, you know, you just ran him. You know, just kept him out there and running. You know, they do a great job of getting him, you know, out after 2 or 3 plays. You know, especially when he's had you know, a longer run or a physical run, and you know, try to keep him fresh. So they do a really good job of that. But he's just, I mean, like I said, I didn't have, I anticipated him having a good game. I really did. Cause I just hearing some things about the way he approached the week and, even just seeing him, walk around, to the bus type thing. I mean, he looked focused and I really anticipated him having a game, but I did anticipate coming out of the game and saying, hey, he was the best running back on the field. Because I just have a lot of respect for Sincere McCormick, and I still do. I mean, I still think he's a great back, but yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, in my opinion, yesterday Dwayne Ryan was the best running back out there, and so
Yeah.
it's he's just been sensational, and and I said it last night on the air, and it's I'm really kind of talking to air, right? When you think about it, but he won't be first team all conference, I don't think, and that's a shame, because he
Yeah.
should be, because it'll they'll go with Sincere McCormick and the Marshall running back, and he's been on the same field with both those guys the last 2 weeks, and he's been the best running back in both of those weeks, and it'll be a shame, but I anticipate that's the way it works out, but I mean that's an individual award, and you hate, you want him to get it, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, another guy that really impressed me last night in the game was Dylan Hopkins, man. I mean, this guy just continues to grow and get better. Yeah, he threw that one interception, but other than that, I think he played a near perfect game, Steve. Just the way he was making his reads, he just continues to mature. I feel like
Right.
each game, he just gets better and better.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that too. I totally agree with that. He made the one mistake, and that was it. I mean, I thought every other decision he made was a good decision. He almost had the other pick where he threw the deep ball that Rashad Wisdom almost got, but I think that was more of a good job of baiting them
Yeah.
defensively, because I don't, I I just think that was just a good defensive call. I don't think it was a bad decision, but. Other than that, yeah, I mean, threw the ball away when he needed to, made some tough runs, and some just made some great quick decisions on runs, played tight, his hands bleeding at the end of the first half, and he
Hmm.
just tapes it up and goes and plays, and he's turned into a really, really good quarterback, and it's all about the decision making. I mean, I think he's just making great decisions, and he's athletic, and he gets the ball. I love that, threw the deep ball really well yesterday, and um, I wish they could have got the ball to Shropshire more,
Yeah.
because I think they didn't have a clue how to cover him. I mean, they tried to cover him, with no help, man, and that's just crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of been proven that's not going to work. Um, but I thought at times Dylan really handled the pressure well. When because they came after him pretty hard in the second half, particularly, and just I thought he handled that well, and just he did enough for him to win a football game. It just didn't work out.
No doubt. And very quickly, Steve, the hand that was bleeding, this was his throwing hand this time, right? It wasn't the same hand that got stepped on
Correct.
against Marshall.
Correct. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it was hard to tell in the replay exactly what happened, but he just kind of went in there and came out with his hand bleeding pretty bad.
Yeah. I don't
You
know if a
know,
cleat got him or what.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, or maybe he hit it on a helmet and caught like a piece of the helmet or something. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was. I mean, the encouraging thing for what I was told at halftime was that it was just basically bleeding. It was cut open a little bit. It wasn't like any structural damage or anything like that. So,
Okay.
basically it was just a matter of getting the bleeding stopping and taping it up and coming out and playing it. And obviously it didn't affect him in second. It didn't seem to affect him in second half. So you know, I think it was just a matter of getting that thing stopped bleeding, and but it was still tough. I mean, still he's still a tough kid, and so that was great to see.
Yes. Well, let's go ahead and go into our receivers. And you got to start with Trey Shropshire, who was just, performing really well yesterday. And you're right. I don't think UTSA had an answer for him. He was running around a good bit open the whole game. He only had 3 catches, but 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you mentioned earlier, Steve, that where Wisdom almost intercepted that ball. Trey Shropshire almost caught that ball too because it was
Yeah, he
a
did.
deflected.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he
he
almost
did.
had another one.
Yeah, that would have been a miracle play. But yeah, I mean, I just think, and I think the second half it was more of a thing of I don't think Dylan had as much time in the second half as he did the first half. I think that was a big key of stopping Shropshire in the second half. I still don't, I still think he was open. Just couldn't really, at times didn't have the time to get on the ball. But yeah, he has just turned into such a not turned in. He is just such a big playmaker, I don't understand these last two games why the insistence of particularly early of saying, okay, we're just gonna cover, we can cover with one guy. We got to because hey, Corey Mayfield's a really good cornerback, and then last week Stephen Gilmore. So they, to me they looked at it and said, well, we got a great cover guy, so we're just gonna take care of him with this guy. And it obviously didn't work out, because he was running around open. But I mean, just again, I hate that couldn't get him to get the ball to him a little bit more, because he certainly was ready to make big plays, and that happens in a game, and sometimes you just can't. And but I thought overall, Rajay Johnson Sanders made some big plays.
Yes.
Prince made some really big plays, and Prince was sick all week. Prince was he didn't practice basically. I mean, he was out there, but didn't do a lot because just had I think a bad cold type thing. And so he he really performed well, and not having not having a full week of practice, not being fully healthy. But Pittman made some big plays, I thought, in the receiving game too. And so I thought that the receivers stepped up and made some plays.
They did. Well, overall team statistics from the offensive side: 474 total yards, 220 on the ground, and 254 through the air. 19 first downs, 5 of 12 on third down. So not bad on that. Just the overall good night on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I honestly think this is one of our best offensive performances of the year, Steve. And I mean, this came up against a really good defense for UTSA.
Yeah, I mean, the only disappointment to me, offensively, maybe a couple of the penalties hurt things, and the pre-snap, the false starts and things like that. That's just excuse me, that's just going to happen in that atmosphere, and it is, and you don't want to happen, but it's just kind of, especially when you're not really accustomed to playing in that. They play in so many quiet stadiums, that when you get a place like that, it's different, and we talked about before the game, and I really believe this is it's a different type of noise than when they play Georgia or LSU or whatever. I mean, because it's intense. That was an intense game now, and from kickoff, from 2 hours before kickoff, for all week before kickoff to the end of it, that's intense, man. And so that crowd is just is a lot more into it, and it was loud. I mean, it's hard to handle that especially when you're not accustomed to it. So those things are going to happen. A couple of holding calls hurt. The the offensive pass interference, did
Prince rub off on the defender or what?
No, I mean basically what he did, and here's my deal, and again, I know you probably tired of hearing me say stuff about officials, but here's my deal. They basically, it was like a pick. Basically, he was running around, and he kind of stopped it with his back to him. Really well, he was facing him at first, but kind of felt like they either blocked or picked him away from the short guy to get back in there. They were kind of bracketed, but he was covering Prince. I know I'm not explaining this well, but basically it was kind of a pick play. Basically, is what they call down the field. Not a traditional pick play, but kind of a down the field. I mean, maybe he did. I don't know. But then you let a guy twice. You let a San Antonio receiver push off while the ball's in the air and don't call anything. So if you're going to call offensive pass interference, call the darn thing.
Agreed.
And that to me, that penalty against Prince was huge because it's 7-0. They've punched them in the mouth already. They got the stop. That would have given them a first down at the 45, maybe 40, 45 going in on UTSA's 40. You had all the momentum in the world. Really might have punched it in there. You never know what would happen, but certainly had that momentum. And then all of a sudden, you got first and 20 at your own 20 or whatever it was instead of first out to 45 and first and 10 to 45. And that's a huge call, to me at that moment. And so, that hurt, but and the other thing that was disappointing offensively is just how well they played in the first half. I mean, you had 349 yards or whatever, 59 yards or whatever it was, or about 350 yards of offense in the first half, and yet just didn't have that same offensive success in the second half. That's a little disappointing. Yeah. And it was disappointing not to be up 28-17 at half instead of 21 or 28.
Yeah, 24-17. Yeah.
Yeah. To be up, it should have been up 28. Had a chance there at the end, and they didn't get the first down and had to kick the field goal. So that was a little disappointing. But other than that, I mean, it was a great offensive night. I mean, it was, and I thought the great thing was it was running the ball and passing. They ran for over 200 yards against, one of the top rushing defenses in the country, I think, certainly in the conference, and so to do that against those guys was pretty impressive.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, I know you did mention the penalties. That was disappointed, 13 for 124 yards. And, I mean, I was going to mention that you've got to attribute that to the crowd noise and just the atmosphere that was there. But I'll also say, let's go ahead and talk about the defense. But what were your thoughts on those two defensive pass interference calls?
You want the family version, or you want me to cut loose? They were terrible. They were terrible. Here's the deal. Here's the thing to me. On those fades, if you're not going to let if you're going to let the offensive guy be physical on the fade, with which that guy was, and give him credit. Now, I'm not saying that, to me, it's good football to let those guys fight it out.
Yeah, let them play.
To me, it is. But if you're going to let them, and I'm not just talking about them, San Antonio, I'm talking about a receiver. I'm talking about UAB. I'm talking about every other team in college football. If you're going to let the offensive guy be physical on that play right there, which San Antonio receivers were on both those calls, then you've got to let the defensive guy too. If not, then how are you supposed to cover that?
Exactly.
You're supposed to just stand there and watch him catch it and then try to tackle him? I mean,
dude, and especially with an underthrown ball. I mean, what the hell do you want him to do? It's underthrown, and of course you're going to slow down and try to
Yeah. Well, and I think the first one was closer to me than the second one. The first one, the one that was in the end zone, was there was a lot going on there. But if you watch it, and I watched it when I got home last night, if you watch the entire play, the first contact on that play, other than the bump at the line of scrimmage, which is legal, the first contact on that play is two shoves by the offensive by the receiver. He takes his left hand, he hits him once, and he hits him twice. Okay, so that's the first contact on the play. So if you're going to call something, and the ball's in the air now. The ball's in the air at that point. So if you're going to call something, you call the first contact. Then it becomes kind of a little battle between the two. And of course, CD Dams doesn't turn his head. That hurts. But the first contact was by the receiver on that particular play. Okay, so that one bothered me. And then the second one was just terrible.
Yeah.
The second one, that was a 4th and 2. They turned the ball over there, and then they ended up scoring on the next play. Was terrible.
Was that the one that Cash almost intercepted?
No, that was one on Starling Thomas.
Oh, okay.
4th and 2, and it was again, the first contact is by the receiver. He pushes off, okay, to get a little separation. Then Starling Thomas gets back into it. The ball comes up and basically goes up with his left hand, knocks it down while, they were both fighting with their, he's fighting with his left hand, goes up with the left hand. Great play. Great play. And if anything there, again, that's an offensive pass interference. Now they're going to look at it and, the UTSA fans are going to look at it and say, oh, it's crazy. It's defense interference. And probably some UAB fans are going to say I'm crazy for saying this. But you really study the play, which I did when I got home last night. Mm-hmm. That's an interference. That's a no call in my mind. Yeah. And that's if anything, it's offensive pass interference in my mind. Now, and I'm not complaining about. I mean, it's just part of it, And just, those are just two plays in a game that, again, you could woulda, coulda, shoulda all you wanted, and you got to look in the mirror and say, we didn't do the things to win the game. That's the key. But just kind of having a conversation about those plays. Mm-hmm. I didn't agree with them, and I'm not saying, and I say this every week, I'm not saying being an official is easy. I'm not saying that it's that these guys are bad officials. I don't know. I mean, they're certainly better than me. Even the ones that we all think are bad are better than me. I mean, they are.
But, I don't know.
But when you talk about those two plays right there now, those affected the outcome of the game because they score after both of those. All right. So now that was the first one. The first one was a third down play. So if they don't convert there, they're going to kick the field goal more than likely. Mm-hmm. And so so say they make it. That's still 4 points right there. Okay. And then the second one was a fourth down. So it should have been a turnover. And they score the next play. There's 7 points. That's 11 points that were directly impacted by that call. Now, and even if you think the call is right, then that's still 11 points that those calls impact, that made an impact on the game, and again, hey, and San Antonio's going to look at some plays, the one the one at the second to last drive they had there on the sideline where they thought it was a catch.
And it wasn't a catch. Yeah.
And they're going to complain about that. And that's fine. They should. I said on the air, I really thought that play right there was so close that no matter how you called it, somebody, one side was going to say, oh my gosh, that's the worst call ever. You're wrong. Yeah. That's how close it was. Now, I still don't know whether it was a catch or not, but if they were to call it a catch, I wouldn't have complained because it was that close.
Yeah, whatever the call on the field was, they were going to go
right,
with it.
Right. In my mind, on that play right there. But the San Antonio people are looking at right now, going still to this probably this moment, saying, "Oh, that's a terrible call," and so and they're going to say that could have impacted the game, especially if they would have lost. They could have said that, and and really on the fourth down play, right after that, the next play. Will Bowler made the great play to stop him just short. Mm-hmm. That could have been called interference. That was a bang play that if they would have called that interference, I don't know that you could complain. Well, you would have complained about it, but I don't know that you could. So it's not like again, it's not like it's just a one-sided thing because it's not. I mean, it seems like it when you're going through it, and yeah, it's frustrating when you get 3 or 4 holding calls and the other side gets none or one or whatever it may be. I mean, it is frustrating. I don't care who you are, because you think like, well, you're catching our holding, but this guy is holding all night long and you don't call anything on him. So there's a lot of that in general as a football fan, but it specifically on those 2 calls in this game. There were 3, including the pass interference on Prince. I thought they impacted the game, and is that the reason they lost? Heck, no, it's not the reason they lost. I mean, that's just part of the game, but I do think it impacted the game.
Yeah, and I will say with confidence that I know that UTSA fans and UAB fans alike can agree on is that we both can't wait to get out of Conference USA and get to the American, because it was just a travesty, dude, that game was on ESPN Plus. Like that game deserved ESPNU at least.
Yeah.
Because that was just such a good game. But it was terrible to watch on ESPN Plus because, I mean, I don't know, but I know that both fan bases can agree that we can't wait to get to the American in a few years. But just finishing up on the defensive side of the ball, I do think they did a great job stopping Sincere McCormick. He only ended up with 65 yards on 20 carries. Frank Harris, whew, man, you just got to tip your hat to him, man. 25 of 36 for 323 and 3 TDs. You just got to tip your hat to him. I mean, he's a hell of a player.
He is. And I mean, and start with the McCormick here, start with the job that they did against the running game. I just thought that, shut him down. And that was, to me, that was coming in, that was the key to make them, to take, him away. And they really did. I mean, it was, I thought both Noah Wilder and Tyler Taylor were, played incredible against the run and the defensive front. UAB's defensive front is so good. I mean, they're just so good. They dominate people, and they just didn't give him a chance to ever get going, and I think that was key. But on the other hand, Frank Harris, man, and the thing that was great about Frank Harris is he was so just composed. He was patient. He was, he made the right decision. 99% of the time, he made the right decision. The third down success they had was Frank Harris.
Yeah.
It was him. There were so many times that he was, the pockets, just crumbling around him, and he just stays calm, maybe takes a step up, goes when he needs to go, but just takes a step up when he needs to, and delivers enough for a first down, and or again, when he goes, he runs and gets just enough for a first time. I mean, just every decision he made was tremendous, and it was so accurate. He was the guy that won the football game for him, and those receivers, those receivers are talented now. They got some NFL guys. I mean, those guys are talented. They're physical. They catch most everything, and so they had they got some playmakers. But it all starts. Yesterday, at least, it all started with Frank Harris. I mean, and just you got to give him credit. There's not. There was times where he made plays that it wasn't bad defense. There was one time that he got. I still don't know how this happened. He got out of there and got a first down on a third down play when nobody got out of their rush lane. They're all where they were supposed to be, and he just made a play. And give him credit for that. I mean, it's just, you got to tip your hat to him because he was sensational. And again, I don't think that any of what he did, most of what he did, wasn't because the defense broke down. It was just him making plays, and other than maybe the one deep ball that, after the fourth down penalty where there was a busted coverage. But, other than that, I think that, defense played well. He just made plays. And again, you got to give him credit.
You do. But talking a little bit more about those guys up front for UAB, ended up with 5 sacks. Is that the most that we've had in a while? Or?
No, I think there were 6 against,
that's right.
I think recently we had 6 against somebody. I don't remember, Louisiana Tech maybe, or I don't know. But I mean, I thought they impacted the game as well as any game as of the season, really. And the 5 sacks, and there's a lot of other almost sack type things where he got rid of the ball, and I thought they did a good job of making him uncomfortable. He just stayed comfortable. I mean, they did the things that should have made him uncomfortable, I guess. And but I thought all of it. I thought I mean, all those guys up front, I thought played well. And I think there was a lot of holding going on that I saw that they just kept, they never called, and they just kept fighting through it. And so I think you got to give UAB's players a lot of credit. They still weren't fully healthy, and I mean they still had guys banged up throughout, and Tyler Taylor played, nearly every snap, or he played a lot, most snaps, and during the week they were wondering whether he's going to play at all, or
Yeah.
they knew he was going to play, but they thought he'd be more limited. And he played a lot of snaps, just kind of go down the list. You're still without a lot of guys, key guys, and they gave a great effort.
No doubt. And you mentioned Tyler Taylor. Of course, Alex Wright had a really good game again. I thought Charlie Benton played well as well. Just really, and Kyle Harrell, hey, making a couple more plays this week. He had a really big play last week, but he seems to be really well. Macario Stanley had a couple good plays. Just all around, other than like you just mentioned, other than that busted coverage on that long touchdown pass, I thought the defense as a whole played a hell of a game against that explosive offense of UTSA. And you just got to tip your hat to Frank Harris. I mean, Frank was motivated to play UAB because, as we said in our preview episode, this is his first time getting to play against UAB. And he's already announced he's going to be back next year, so we'll get to deal with him again next year.
Yeah, well, there'll be some motivation next year, so that helps.
You can believe that.
Yeah, not that there wasn't motivation this year, but no. I mean, I agree. I think the defense played well. I mean, and they were put in some situations, particularly in the second half, where the field position was brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a good job of holding it off, and so I mean, I think and hey, yeah, you got to look at like a cornerback. Devontae Bynum didn't play. He was I think he was sick. It wasn't able to play, and Mac McWilliams came back, but basically you had a 3-man cornerback rotation that played with Mac McWilliams who hadn't played in 5 weeks, and then C.D. Daniels and Starling Thomas. I mean, basically that's your cornerback rotation against those guys, against those receivers. And so you got to give them a lot of credit, for stepping up and playing, and they didn't have the depth there because of injuries, and still, safety was, still without, Devon Miller finally, he dressed. I don't think he got in the game. I didn't see him in the game,
yeah.
but at least he was dressed. But but they had, those guys played well, and they weren't as deep as they could be, or where it's first of the season. So and linebacker, same situation. I mean, you still had, Jalen Raylan was out, and you had 3 guys basically that played at that, at that spot, and and they played a lot of snaps, and against physical, good offense. So give those guys a lot of credit. They played their heart out, man. I mean, that was the hard thing about it, that somebody had to lose that game, because I think that was such a great championship caliber game that was well played on both sides, and was just they both sides played their heart out, and somebody's got to lose, and that unfortunately on this day it was UAB, and unfortunately we're not talking about it winning another game and hosting a championship. That's what hurts a little bit too, is it was going to be hosting this thing, and that hurts. That hurts, and it should hurt, and it's great. Again, I go back to, it's great that it hurts.
Yeah,
because that means the program's at a place where you want to be. Now does the program still need to take some steps? Sure it does. But to be there and to be hurt by this is a good feeling, man. I mean, it's not a good feeling. It's a feeling that sucks, but it if you think about it, it's a pretty good feeling to feel this bad, which makes no sense to say, but it's true.
No, it shows where the program's at now. It just shows that, we expect to compete year in and year out, and Clark would agree, for championships. So it's good that it hurts,
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to another bowl game, which, I mean, if you would have told this back in 2012, 2013, we'd be like, oh yeah, bowling, let's go. But hey, now we've got championship, expectations. So it's definitely, it sucks that it hurts, but it's good that it hurts. So I definitely understand what you were saying there, Steve. But anything else before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I mean, I would think just on that. I mean, it's not even championship expectations. It's championship or bust. I mean,
There you go.
it's
Yeah.
not just expectations like, hey, we expect to be in championship. It's at a level right now where if you don't reach a championship game, you feel like it's a failure of a season.
Yeah.
You know, and that's that. I mean, that's a hard standard to live up to. It really is for
Yeah.
any program, right? But that's where it's reached, and that's because that's a credit to and that's where it kind of bothers me that not kind of bothers me. It bothers me that the criticism of a coaching decision of a coach that has brought this program to that level.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of there's been a lot of talk all season of social media talk of criticism of him, the way he handles, ways of his staff and the way they do things about they got to do this to get to the next level and they can't do this, they can't do that. But I mean, think of where this program was when he took over.
Yeah.
I mean, and yes, you do need to take some steps, but every program needs to take steps. I mean, you got to keep building toward the next thing, whatever the next thing is.
Right.
But I wouldn't trade him.
No, me either.
I mean,
Me
I
either.
wouldn't. And then it's very small, but there are a few people I saw that said that you got to maybe we should move on without him, or maybe
Oh,
we can't get the next level with
so
his
stupid, man. So
yeah, and
stupid.
and that's just ridiculous thinking in my in my opinion, and everybody's got their opinion, and again, I'm gonna say mine, and you don't have to agree with it, and I don't care if you agree with it, but that's my opinion, and other people have their opinion, and that's fine. They don't care if I agree with them. That's good too.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, bottom line is it stinks to be sitting here thinking that there's no championship game out there, but again, you got to give a lot of credit to what Jeff Traylor and those guys have done over there, and what they've done this season. Now what we don't know is what they're going to do moving forward. I mean, this doesn't automatically say that that they've become the team to beat. They're team to beat this year. So we'll see what where their next step comes. But
Mhm.
for this year, I mean, my goodness, that's a good football team, and it's a good it's a team that knows how to win. And give them a lot of credit. But I mean, it's going to be hard. I sat down and watched this game last night when I got home. I mean, bits and pieces.
Mhm.
It's going to be hard to watch the whole thing because
Oh,
you know
yeah.
how it ends. And I might
Yeah.
not. I might not ever watch the whole thing. I
Yeah.
might just stick with bits and pieces. But it was one of the better games I've ever seen.
Yes.
But it's still going to be hard to watch it again.
No doubt. And we got one more, Steve. We got El Paso coming to town this upcoming Friday. And UTEP comes to town. And guys, we'll actually going to drop our UTEP preview earlier because of the holidays and with it being a Friday night, Friday afternoon game. So expect our UTEP preview episode to actually be out hopefully Tuesday morning to, give you guys some time to listen and while traveling around for the Thanksgiving holidays. But guys, as always, thank you for listening to the Blazer Victory podcast. We appreciate every single one of you, and thank you guys that share us and retweet us. Every episode, we really appreciate it. It just help us spreading the word about this podcast. Tell a friend or two about us. If you're not following us on Twitter, give us a follow at twitter.com/blazerpod. And always make sure, if you're not already, subscribe to our podcast on a podcast platform, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. Just make sure you're following or subscribe to us. But on that note, guys, we'll be back in just a couple of days to get you ready for UTEP. Go Blazers.